Hi, everyone. If you're a light worker, then this message is for you. I really want to help us prepare our energy and understand what we're stepping into as we approach the date of November 5th here in the US. We all know what that date is. And I really want us to understand this piece of ascension because we're hitting a really pinnacle point and how we can step into our highest and what we need to do to step into our highest and usher in the highest outcome for everyone. So let's dive in and talk about it.
Do you feel the light? Do you feel the light? Do you feel the light coming? Do you feel the light? Do you feel the light? Do you feel the light coming? Do you feel the light? Do you feel the light? Do you feel the light?
So this is kind of a follow-up video to the last one I did, the live with Karen Glass, where we led you all through a clearing and an activation. And if you haven't watched that video, I will link it below. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about the energies and kind of like what's been coming through for Karen and I. So first and foremost, we've been feeling that next week the elites have been planning something. And I'm not the type of psychic that's like, I'm going to tell you exactly everything I've gotten because I don't want us to like jump into that fear and manifest any of that timeline. I I could care less if I'm right or not. I do want to talk about what's important, and that's our energy. So it feels like these elites who aren't currently in power are trying to maintain that. And they're going to do anything to try and keep that. But it's like we have different options about what they're going to do on each of the timelines. To me, it feels like um, not that we need to prevent something from happening. It's almost like whatever is going to happen, it's almost like there is something that's going to happen. We will be okay. And we need to hold that energy of safety within us. And whatever happens will be for the highest good. And it feels like it will help us move through more quickly when we are fully in our power. And whatever takes place it's more about this is not only helping to awaken this next wave of people, which I feel like is a huge wave of people that are about to wake up and step into their own higher consciousness. I also feel like it is a teaching for us. When this happens, when whatever takes place, we are learning to step into and hold this higher consciousness and not drop down. That's what the dark wants us to do. It wants us to fall privy to fear, to fall privy to doubt and insecurity, and that we need to fix, and then that we're just like draining ourselves through this lower energy. If you think about a narcissist, what does it love to do? It loves to get a reaction out of you. It loves to have control over what you think and your emotional state. And if you're in fear of them, then you're living in fear. So when you're not afraid of what a narcissist is going to do, you've seen them, you've become aware, then they have no power over you. And you know how you can mitigate this, that like an attack from them just like doesn't matter anymore because you're connected to yourself. So it feels like we're releasing that control of that fear. They want to do things, these elites, to do things to have us step into these lower emotions and attach to them, like fear, worry, panic, doubt, all this stuff. And we want to attach to it, thinking it's ours. So that when they do that and we attach to those emotions, we're now creating for them instead of for ourselves. I've talked about this a lot in my other videos of how these reptilian beings that came to this universe were looking for resources. And what's the thing that creates our resources? Our higher consciousness, the connection to ourselves and our heart space. And they know that. So they want to hijack it. They want to have control of it. So then we're using that power to create for them. That is the thing, this higher consciousness that keeps replenishing resources, energetic and physical, because that energy becomes physical. And these lower energies, beings, I guess, don't know how to access that within themselves. So they keep trying to take it from us. And we are at a point now where we're like, not anymore. I'm not consenting to the giving away of my power, the giving away of my inner resource and my higher consciousness and the connection to myself and the higher aspects of myself. Some may call it intuition, some may call it your channel, spirit, the universe, our connection to all of that. That's what they want because they don't know how to connect into it. And when we instead attach to an emotional state and make it be who we are and identify through it, through that fear, instead of realizing this is just an emotion that's passing through me and I can release it, they want us to attach to it and hold on to it so we can release that hold. And as we move into next week, we need to make sure we are holding ourselves in this higher consciousness. In Lemuria, there was a prophecy that these negative Atlanteans slash reptilian beings were going to come take Lemuria and take people who were living there. And it was like a lot of us agreed to be taken, to go into the game and experience it and experience the dark so we could understand it. And when we have that understanding, then we pull ourselves out. We are at this pull out point. This is what's happening. And it feels like next week is that point when they try something and we are not going to attach to whatever happens. And we're learning this separation. When we separate from these emotional things that just like stir up in us, we just realize this isn't me. This is just something I'm experiencing. I'm still safe. I'm safe to experience this. So in Lemuria, there was a prophecy that these beings were going to come and take over. And it feels like what we've kind of been receiving, a lot of us may be feeling like, oh, I feel uneasy. I feel like there's possibility of like something not great happening around November 5th. And I would say that's kind of like the prophecy that yes, they're going to try and do something again to take us over. But this is the time how the prophecy shifts. Like Lemuria, we're not going to let it happen. Like Lemuria, it happened. It took place. We kind of agreed to allowing it to take place so we could go through this experience. But this time, our agreement is no, we're going to hold the line. We're going to hold our higher consciousness and we're going to pull out of the dark's game. And we're not going to attach to fear that comes in from this prophecy type energy. We're going to step into our own connection and knowing this time, and we're not going to give in to it. This is so important. Now, I see so many like thumbnails and videos on YouTube that are like 2020 end of 2024, chaos will ensue and all this stuff. And it's like this spiritual clickbait. It's like, oh, predictions for the 2024 election. And it's just like they're getting you to click in and like it's almost this attachment type energy. I need to know. It's part of the drama. Just because it's spiritual doesn't mean that it's good for us to consume. And I feel like what we always want to ask ourselves, like, what's the higher point here? Does this feel right to me? Like I said, they're trying to hijack our own intuition. They're trying to hijack our emotional state. When we're in our centeredness and our groundedness, when we're in like this neutrality, it's so powerful. When we see things as like it's just an experience that I'm moving through, then we have that detachment. And that's not being insensitive, being detached. We have so much attachment to everything in this lifetime. And it's like there's no such thing as like ending or death. It's like it's just it's an evolvement, a new beginning. And I don't mean this to sound insensitive, but it's like when we start seeing things from this different perspective and we release attachment to an outcome that we think is like, no, it has to be this way. Like nobody can experience anything bad. Or I have to try and prevent myself from having this experience that I feel is inevitable, but I need to try and shift it. And it's like, but what if that brings us into a higher place? It's like kind of when you're in a breakup and you feel like you don't want to be by yourself, so you keep trying to like resist the inevitable. Like I'm just going to stay in this relationship because I don't want to have to go through the pain of the breakup. And instead, you stay in this toxic relationship, but like the person you're supposed to be with is out there waiting for you to step into your power and say, I don't care. This is the movement through this is temporary and it's growth and it's experience. And on the other side of that, I get to meet my person who I'm really supposed to be with, who's going to bring out the best in me. So there's this aspect of like when we accept the worst that could possibly happen. I've done this. It's like I remember as a comedian and like things weren't working out. I'm like, what's the worst that could possibly happen? I'm like, well, I have to go back and live with my parents. Shit doesn't work out. I can't make a living and I have to go back and live with my parents. That's the worst that could happen. Or I like have to live in my car or something. But for me, it was having to go live with my parents. I'm like, actually, living in my car sounds better. So, and it's like as soon as you can accept that, it's like there's a shift that can happen. Now, I didn't have to end up going back and living with my parents, but I did have to go live with my in-laws. And that's a whole other thing. But like during that period of time, it was an extremely like difficult and kind of pretty toxic situations that were going on while I was living there. And my husband was dealing with really crazy health issues. So, in order to pull myself out of that situation, I had to fully step into my power. There wasn't anything that was going to save me. I was trying to apply to like jobs and all this stuff, and it was in front of me the whole time. And as I was going through like this dark night of the soul, being in this awful situation, going through all this suffering by myself, I like was like, how do I get out of this situation? And I started receiving all of these downloads and all these channels. And I was just like, okay, about like ascension and all this stuff. And I just kept hearing, start sharing your information. And I did. And here we are. And it's like, then my own connection told me how to pull myself out of that situation. It told me where I was going to move to. It told me stuff to share. It told me things to create, like all kinds of stuff, all from my own connection. I stepped into my own power. I'm still stepping in, but I'm saying the same with us. We have to step into our own power and know there isn't anything on the other side that's going to save us. We are here to save us. And when this next wave awakens, they may be looking at us like, please save us. Give me your energy. And they're going to want to take from our consciousness, our resource. And we kind of have to be in this space of like holding the line of like, I have to stay in this higher consciousness. And it's almost like, I'm going to let you go through what you're going through and figure it out. And if you want to receive higher conscious help from me, I will. But if you're looking for me to save you from what you're experiencing, I can't. And it's going to be a tough position to be in because we're used to being like, I need to fix and save for people. And that doesn't mean like if you feel called to help in a certain way and like go to the front lines and like of whatever's going on and you feel called to do that, then that's you trusting your intuition. We need different aspects from everybody. I remember my guides talking to me about Atlantis and that there were some Atlanteans who were kind of like missionaries and they wanted to try and convert people into like their higher conscious ways, I guess. But it was like, let me go interfere in the way other beings are living and try to convert them to this and get them to understand it and be this way because it feels so good to us. And I remember when I received that channel and it was coming through, or I was reviewing my notes for it or something for a class. Um, these Jehovah's Witnesses knocked on our door and started preaching to my husband upstairs. And it was like they just kept saying, let me just read this one scripture to you. Let me just read this one. Please, let me read this to you. Thinking like trying to convert him. And I was just like, isn't spirit so funny, that this came through and then that happened. But the reason that became kind of like an in point for this reptilian consciousness and these beings to come in and trick the Atlanteans into like joining forces with them. And so when we try to like convert people and be like, you need to understand the level I'm at and come up to this level, it actually creates like a little bit of a desperation, like an opening where it's like, they're feeling desperate. It's one of those lower things. And it creates an opening for like these darker emotions or energies to come in. So we can't try to like go in and be like, I have to save people and get them to see how I see it. We always talk about this too with awakening. It's like, how can I get other people in my family or my friends to awaken? And it's like, we can't. You have to let them come to that on their own. We can't save them. We save ourselves. And ultimately, that becomes the example of how they can do the same for themselves. We're not here to convert. That is a lower consciousness. So the thing that's really going to save all of us is our own connection. And that's why it keeps trying to get hijacked by the news, by the media, by all social media, by all this stuff that's happening in the world or might be happening. And we attach to it and it hijacks our own connection. And this is what we need to get in tune with. And I think that as like spiritual beings, we think that being enlightened or being high vibe means that everything is hunky dory all the time. We're always happy, joy, joy, joy all the time. And we never experience emotions that don't feel so great. We never experience grief or sadness or anger. And it's just like, no, we do. We just don't attach to them anymore. Or if I'm so enlightened, like, why have I moved 15 times in the last year? And I can't, why isn't spirit giving me a place to settle? And why am I having struggles in my relationship? And why isn't my partner waking up? And da 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 da. And why am I dealing with all these health issues? And it's just like, your soul came here to experience. And then we get so afraid of like, I'm not safe being where I'm at. Things need to be this way. That I'm not high vibe or I'm not in this higher consciousness unless things are settled this particular way. And that's not true. We are always safe where we're at. That's the thing we need to tune into because we have this connection to ourselves. We're finding the safety within us. This is the security we've been looking for. That we can sit in the middle of chaos, in the middle of atrocity or whatever is happening. No, I'm safe. I'm okay because I'm connected to this inside of me. And it's always going to tell me what I need to do and what I need to know for my highest good. Intuition is the most important tool. Even if you are watching other channels who are like, you think are just like the greatest intuitives of all time, you're still using your own intuition of, does this feel right for me? My husband has been watching the History Channel a lot, and there was a series on World War II and the concentration camps. And he was saying that like they said the ones who survived and really made it through those camps. I'm not saying like this is what's going to happen or anything, but um, it felt like were the ones who weren't reactive to how the Nazis were acting. They didn't get attached to how awful everything was. They didn't attach to it. And they ended up coming together in this like energetic way and being present with where they're at and knowing like they were safe. They were still safe there because they were connected to like a higher place. And that's I just feel like it's like, man, to be able to do that and that type of environment is so, so powerful. And like hats off to those people. And I feel like um, we're learning the same thing, that we're coming together collectively through energetically, through this consciousness. When we're all in it and knowing we're safe and we can move through whatever we're in, we're still safe. It's not, I need to get to safety. I need to run and hide from what's ever happening. I can't look at these darker aspects of me. I have to hide from them. How many times have you dove into yourself and looked at your trauma and released your attachment to it, and you've come out the other side even more powerful? We're doing the same thing. We have energies in our body, like from childhood, from past lives, and when we understand and release them, we feel that shift. And the same thing's happening right now, but it's on the physical. So we're not attaching to the drama and the trauma that's coming through. We're saying, I don't need that anymore. I'm done swimming in that. I'm not gonna consent to that fear, to that timeline, to what's being thrown at me. I'm moving forward. So, us stepping into our intuition and following our soul path, stepping into our soul mission, a lot of us are getting so many ideas about how to move forward. It feels like we're going through like almost a collective chakra awakening or opening. And we've been going through like the crown, the third eye, the heart, all this stuff. And we've recently hit the sacral. That's what I was told. And it was like we've hit the sacral where a lot of us have been feeling these creative ideas really coming online. Oh, what if I stepped into this of like how to build out our soul mission and step into it. And now it feels like we're going to hit the root chakra, which is all about foundation and safety and survival and feeling provided for. And we're going to open that root chakra and really step into our safety and security and set a solid foundation so that we can bring these creative ideas out into the world. And it feels like we'll work our way back up these collective type chakras and they'll all start working together. But it feels like a real big, like, root chakra clearing that's coming in. And I've talked about this before. A lot of us think that the unknown isn't a safe place to be. It's actually the safest. And it's not the unknown. It's just our intuition. It's our trust. So when we trust that what's inside us and what we're receiving is real, and we follow it and we step into it, it is us like creating our own energetic protection, our own energetic safety. We're telling ourselves, I love and trust you so much that I'm going to follow this. If you said that to a child or a partner and they're like, "Oh, I want to create this business or I want to build this thing or I want to, I don't know, join this contest or whatever." And it's like they're like, I want to do this." And you're like, "Okay, great. I think you're going to do amazing." Follow it. And you let them have that space to do it and step into it. They're probably going to do a much better job than if you were like, "Well, I don't know if that's going to be safe. Like people could ridicule you, or most businesses always fail." Like people always say shit like that. And it's like, then they're carrying that with them and we make it harder. So we can't do that to ourselves. We have to say, okay, this is coming through. It must be so valuable. It was so valuable for me to be able to receive it. It took all of its mustering and its own worthiness, this idea to come through and speak itself to me. So it is worthy of me honoring it, of hearing it out, of feeling it and respecting it. So I think we're really stepping into rebuilding and setting a solid foundation for ourselves. And as we step into next week and November 5th, do not let yourself get hijacked. If you see things happening or predictions happening and you're like, "I don't want that to happen," you can just say, "I don't consent to that." Jump timelines. This is Karen's advice. Karen would always say, Karen Glass, jump timelines. I don't consent. Um, It feels like there is big potential and possibility. And I don't say this from fear. I say it from a place of power, of things happening next week. That it's almost like it doesn't matter. I don't care what you do. I know I will be safe and I will be in my power. Our energy, our consciousness, and what we choose to believe in and focus on creates our reality. These lower beings know that. That's why they keep trying to hijack it. So the more that we can trust our own intuition and ideas and follow that, the stronger and brighter our reality will get. The more powerful we become, the more untouchable we become. The more we can honor that part of ourselves and not consent to any of the fear, maybe even turning off our TVs or putting some discipline around social media, and start creating healthier habits for ourselves, the more we create the reality that we want, the more we move towards this higher consciousness for everyone. So let's show how strong we've become and how strong we really are by not giving in to this fear, by not falling into franticness and panic, by instead stepping into our safety and our connection within ourselves, and knowing that we came here for this time. We came here to experience and pull out of this hold of this third dimensional consciousness. This is the time we've been waiting for. Let's show how strong we actually are. I love you guys. Let's hold the line. Thank you so much for being here and for being in your power. I'll talk to you soon.
Do you feel the light? Do you feel the light? Do you feel the light coming? Do you feel the light? Do you feel the light? Do you feel the light coming?